Hello there, Ed. How are you? Oh, God.
Are you tired?
No, I actually feel okay. I haven't been getting a lot of sleep lately, but that's mainly because I've been Calgary carousing.
Oh, you had a good time?
How's that going for you?
Oh, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Great town. I'm all for any town where you don't riot after you win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah!
How's that for sucking up to the home crowd?
Not about 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Not bad.
What was that? There's an echo here.
No, it's just the same idiot saying the same thing twice.
Yeah, moving seats.
They were accused of being Canucks fans last night. They're the rowdy ones. So, I mean, you've done so much, but I'm a cartoon fan. So I'd like to talk about the voice acting first.
Sure, yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of other actors who said there's no acting and then voice acting. There's just acting. Do you agree or disagree with this?
Well, yeah, I think the two have different demands, obviously. I mean, it's nice to do voice acting in terms of not having to get into the makeup or get into the wardrobe. But as far as creating a character, obviously you can fully embody one that's on camera, and I do prefer that. But voice acting is a lot of fun because of the instantaneous nature that you can kind of dip in and dip out. It's a lot of fun.
Are you amazed at some of the long-term impact of some of the cartoons you've done? I mean, like Gargoyles for me, I was like, he was a gargoyle!
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm actually...
Yes, peanut gallery.
It's terrifying. I'm actually not aware of it until I come to these sorts of things, because it's very easy to feel as though you're doing something in isolation and feel as though it's not having an effect until you come to these sorts of things and people remind you of stuff that you'd forgotten you'd done.
Does it scare the hell out of you?
Yes, it does.
There you go.
Yeah. You're scaring the hell out of me, actually.
Speaking of that, Jamie in the audience over on the left wants to know if you were in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes, I was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah, I was Big Russ Thompson, you know, the loudmouth neighbor that got shrunk.
Have you been in? Because you're one of those faces that...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always wanted to do lots of different interesting things, because I think that's the idea. When you're on your deathbed, you can say exactly that rather than I have a more expensive lining for my coffin.
No, I mean, speaking of which, I mean, you were Max Headroom.
Yeah.
That...
Catch the wave.
Yes, very good. Oh, God, thank God you weren't around back then. I would have been out of the job, Ed.
I don't think the prosthetics would have sat as well on me as they did on you.
I don't know, a computer-generated cigar, I can see that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're doing a very good. Yeah, what'd you say? Oh, there was something.
Sorry about that.
Where's my ticket to dope?
That's a family show. I see where your brain's going.
Where it's gone, Ed, where it's gone.
But that was, a massive consumer pop culture phenomenon at the time that, in retrospect, was very prescient. I mean, you guys predicted YouTube.
Yeah, it was very cutting edge, and probably in a lot of ways, even if it was on now, it would be considered cutting edge. And there's probably a case for bringing it back now because of the internet and and the exchange of information. How quickly we learn about people, and that you can't get away with anything. Yeah, back then it was quite something, and it was a very short, sharp shock. I mean, we did 12 episodes for ABC and made the cover of Newsweek, and then it was pulled off the air. So it was.
Why? Was it ratings, or was it because it was a little too smart for most people?
You know what it was? It was. I think we bit the hand that fed us rather than nibbling.
We don't know anything about that.
Nothing.
This is
Hi, Rogers. How are you?
That's Roger guy, anyway.
I mean, you guys were. It was a ferocious satire of TV news, of networks. It was, people might have thought from the outside, oh, it's this gimmicky little guy from the Coke ad, but it had a tremendous amount of depth and range, and probably more than any other science fiction, accurately predicted where things were going to be going. Did you know that at the time, or was it to you just a show about, a guy with a camera who hit his head and turned into Max Headroom?
It's we always thought it was weird enough to do well, but I don't think anyone realized that it would have the impact that it did, how quickly it did. it was strange because it kept getting referred to as an icon, and you know, it sort of sounds like a brand name of aluminum, but it was very odd because I was working so hard on the show, playing both characters, and you would do sort of 6 or 7 hours as the Edison character, and then I would get into makeup for the other character, for Max. It was 2.5 hours to put the makeup on, and then an hour and a half to take it off. And you never really had a sense of the impact that it was having.
Now, it took an hour and a half to take the makeup off. Were you ever tired at the end of the day and just said, you know what, I'll take it off at home, and drove home as Max Headroom?
Honestly, a couple of times I was tempted, and the only time I've ever gone out in public as Max, it actually caused a traffic accident, and it was in London when we were first doing it there, and I just got fed up shooting in the studio one day, and I started walking down. It was in Hampstead, and started walking down the street with this, you know, the kind of washing machine, you know, tuxedo. And a guy had a head-on collision. So
now you know what it's like to be a woman with big boobs in the spring.
On that note, Kelly over on the left has a clean question about Max Headroom. Where's Kelly? Oh, there he is.
I'm right here. For Matt, the question I have is, if Max Headroom was filmed today, if, say, the same crew, same premise was transplanted from back then to, say, they start shooting it tomorrow, do you think it would have the same profound effect in today's culture, with today's media and that stuff, that it did 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
I mean, that's obviously a tough one to say. I think you know, the temptation is to say yes, but given the nature of the internet and how quickly information is turned over, the unfortunate downside of that is that it means that people move on to other subjects and other fads, whatever you want to call them, very quickly. So, I mean, you know, I'd like to say yes, but I'm biased.
Thank you for that long-winded question.
Thank you for the long-winded answer.
That actually makes me start thinking that science fiction, you know, back in Max Headroom's day, it was about what was going to happen. It was a futuristic sort of prediction art form. Now it's contextualizing what's happening to us now. Do you find that as well in your work? Because you've been all over the place with many genres of television.
Yeah, it's curious, isn't it? I mean, whether it's email or any form of the internet and Facebook or whatever it is, there's this sort of curious kind of existentialism that goes on, and you feel as though it's not worth it unless it's been filmed. You know, that everyone needs every single moment of their lives recorded, otherwise they're not validated. And you know, with TV, because of the influx of reality shows, you know, there's fewer and fewer spaces for good shows. So when a good one comes up that does tip the hat to the trends, you really do stand up and take notice. So maybe now you know, it's going to be easier to spot these things because they're fewer and far between. You know?
Can I ask you about Sci Factor?
Yeah.
Now, that show alleged to be files from some organization, right?
Yeah.
Come on, that was BS, wasn't it? There was no organization.
Come on, there was no organization. It was the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research, and Dan Aykroyd would come on at the beginning of every show and go, "This really happened." And you kind of go, wait a minute, the two-headed talking pig really happened? And so it was it was an interesting show because the first go around we said this was ripped from the files of the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research. Then the second season it was these are loosely based on the and then by the third season it was we're making this up.
I like that progression.
Yeah.
We can't fool you any longer.
Yeah, that's right.
Third season, the scripts are way outlandish, and we know you're not going to swallow this crap.
Is that
You've gone too far. No, it was the inevitable walk towards fiction. How's that?
It's kind of like the Modern Warfare franchise in video games. Yeah, that's the modern equivalent.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's something still that you really feel the need to do career-wise?
You know, I don't know, because I just try and react to whatever script is coming through the door, whether it's good,
Right.
bad, or indifferent, and hopefully there's new good stuff out there. I mean, I don't sort of, I mean, there's been a few movies where it's been me or the other guy, and they've picked the other guy, and I try not to go, oh God, I regret that, and I could have done that better. Otherwise, it drives you crazy. So really, all you're left with is okay. There's classical roles out there that I'd like to play, and the rest is all up for grabs, whatever comes in. So you know, I'm totally reliant on the writers.
Nice. On that note, we're going to let you get back to your fans at your table. So
Thank you, Matt.
You're very welcome.
All right, Matt Frewer.